Hello there, Bunneh. Bunneh here, and I challenge myself to survive for a full week without ever building a base on 7 Days to Die's hardest difficulty. I threw in a Darkness Falls mod too, just to really spice things up and change the progression. The rules are simple. I'm tackling this challenge as a hardcore Ironman, meaning I'm completely solo and death is permanent. I'm not allowed to place a single building block or any form of crafting station, with the exception of campfires so I can cook food. I'm not allowed to store things in external containers, but I am allowed to stay anywhere I need to overnight. The challenge will end when I've failed enough times to quit, or if I somehow manage to survive the impending horde on the 7th day. For the record, I've attempted this challenge 5 times up until this point, and this is how it went. In case you're wondering how I'm setting up the world for this challenge, it's on the screen right now. Basically, it's the Darkness Falls mod single player on insane difficulty and 30-minute day cycles with a slight tweak to make daylight just a little bit longer. Day 1 begins like every morning, where I wake up dazed with blurry vision and flail my arms around in front of my body. There's a little text on the screen describing some things about the Darkness Falls mod, but I'm already familiar with it for the most part, and I'll just do my best to explain things as I go along. Darkness Falls changes a lot in regards to gameplay. There's new enemies, tons of new items, and a complete overhaul of the attribute system. The mod offers tons more inventory space as well, but to take full advantage of it, I'll have to make backpacks or invest some feat points to reduce the amount of encumbrance slots. The mod does offer this nice little starter bundle, but because of this challenge restrictions, most of this is useless to me. It does provide me with a blank class paper though, which allows me to select my class of choice for the playthrough. In my previous 5 attempts, I chose the Survivor class, thinking that disease resistance and bartering attributes were going to be really useful, but you saw how those runs ended. I wanted to choose something different this time, both for diversity and because I was literally falling into the category of insanity with my previous attempts, but I didn't want to pull the trigger on anything just yet. I punch some grass, pick up some stones, and craft a stone axe to gather wood. Most resources were going to be accumulating naturally as I find them or salvage items that I don't need, but for right now I needed to piece together some starter gear. The stone spear is an incredible early game weapon because of its long range attacks and knockbacks. Plus, I planned on using bladed weapons towards the end of the challenge anyways, so this just makes sense. These fruit trees are one of many additions of the Darkness Falls mod and make the crude aspects of survival in this challenge a little bit easier. I take out this chicken for its sweet, succulent, red meat, and encounter the first zombie of the challenge. Much of the combat in this video is going to be me attacking, then quickly backing up to avoid attacks. One of the benefits of bladed weapons is the added bleed effect they apply to enemies. Torches also have a chance of catching the enemy on fire and applying a burning effect, so I often swap back and forth between these two weapons. The way I look at it, the more dot damage I can dish out to an enemy, the less melee attacks I have to land, which means less time spent in close quarters with them. Up ahead, I spot a wolf just strolling across the street, and if that thing catches a whiff of me, it's game over. I decide to craft myself a bow and arrows just so I had one more weapon to work with that keeps me out of melee distance as much as possible. Having a bow also allows me to take advantage of sneak damage attacks. This quickly becomes my go-to for initiating fights, as the added damage multiplier really helps to speed up these fights and minimize the risks. When this zombie biker finally dies to my bleeds, burns, and arrows, he drops a lootable bag, and let's just say I get lucky as hell! This motherfucker dropped 2, count them 2, SWAT helmets in one drop. This was incredibly fortunate because I planned on going heavy armor anyways, so finding a high-level helmet like this early on was huge. Now I mentioned before about harvesting things between points of interest, but this yucca fruit deserves a special shout-out. As long as I had an empty water jar, which could be obtained from drinking jars of clean water, I could cook yucca juice at a campfire. This would end up being my main source of hydration during this challenge, so get used to seeing me snagging these things a lot. Also, I'm not confident that I'm saying yucca correctly, but it's how I'm gonna say it. Finally, after that exhilarating trek across dangerous territory, I reach the trader. Now, unlike in the vanilla 7 Days to Die, traders are open 24/7 with the Darkness Falls mod. However, as a trade-off, they're no longer safe zones and can be sieged by zombies at any time. This is the reason that I didn't include no camping in safe zones in the rule set, because there are no safe zones. Anyways, I have another stroke of luck from killing this nurse because she had a scrap machete on her for some reason. Just like that SWAT helmet from earlier, this was huge. The scrap machete was a much better weapon than a stone spear, and quickly became my new main hand weapon. Now, let's talk about the trader. He's a bit of an asshole.
Are you gonna purchase something?
But incredibly essential for this run to succeed. He offers missions at various locations in the game world, and completing said missions will not only provide me with loot from the location, but also a quest reward for completion. These quest rewards were always a chunk of XP, some dukes, which is the currency in the game, and a choice of a random item reward. I select the closest mission available because I was in no shape to be traveling far distances right now. Next, I decide to sell that second SWAT helmet for a bit of starter cash and purchase a cooking pot and cooking grill to use with a campfire. Since I was relatively safe right now, I start educating myself on the classes available. I still have that blank class page to use, and the sooner I can start throwing in attribute points, the better. Like I mentioned before, I chose the Survivalist class in my previous 5 attempts, but that wasn't working out so well, so I wanted to change it up this time. After careful consideration, I decided to go with the Security class. The one branch of feats increases my speed with melee attacks, while the other two provide straight-up tankiness in the form of HP loss reduction and increased benefits from wearing armor. The reduced HP loss feats were the shining jewel here. At the moment, I didn't really have much of any armor to benefit from, and acquiring armor in the playthrough was a bit of a gamble, but straight-up HP loss reduction was guaranteed and could very well save the run. Now, with a new class comes a series of 5 quests to advance its progression. These quests tend to be very easy, and if I was further along in the game, I could probably complete all of them in under a few minutes, but at the moment, my resources are pretty limited, so I have to play cautiously. The first quest only wants me to craft a wooden club though, which I can bang out on the spot. Completing this gives me a set of starter clothing, which doesn't provide me any armor, but does provide some protection from the weather. The next quest is to kill 5 zombies, which is going to come passively, I'm sure. Before setting out on any grand adventures, I take a few moments to run around looting things I thought would be valuable. I didn't find anything notable here, but I did amass some more basic resources to help me in the struggle. The trader also has a few vending machines outside that sell some basic food items, but most of the time these things are way too expensive to consider purchasing unless I'm in a pinch. There's one more NPC here at the trader that is part of the Darkness Falls mod, and she's a medical vendor and another quest giver of sorts, although her quests are always go to X location and kill X amount of zombies that spawn. These quests typically aren't that challenging, but I'm far too undergeared to consider them right now. I peek over the wall of the trader to inspect the area before leaving, and decide to take advantage of the sneak attack damage on this zombie. Also, I forgot to invest any of those attribute points after selecting my class, so I put 1 into Flurry of Blows and 2 into Pain Tolerance. The machete does play out a bit differently than the spear in regards to combat. It doesn't have as far of a melee reach as the spear, but the power attack is quite strong and a bit cheaper in terms of stamina. Regardless, my combat loop remains relatively the same, albeit I have to play it more cautiously since I have to be a bit closer. Bleeds, burns, and arrows are the only way I'm going to succeed at this challenge, but overextending myself to achieve those will more than likely result in me failing. Zombies can apply a plethora of negative effects if I'm not careful. Things like abrasions, broken limbs, bleeds, or infection, all of which will ultimately kill me if I don't treat them. Anyways, mission time! Basically, my goal for this mission is to clear the area and stay within the area. These missions are usually full of difficult enemies, some of which hiding around corners just waiting to attack. Playing cautiously and using the environment to my advantage was my only course of action here. This hazmat zombie is especially dangerous because at any time he could decide to self-detonate, which would certainly one-shot me at this stage in the game. I hear the audio cue while I'm fighting him, so I decide to run away before he explodes.
Jesus Christ!
Nighttime is setting in really fast, and I'm running out of time. If the sun goes down and I'm still fighting zombies, I'm basically dead. Nighttime boosts their damage and damage resistances, but more importantly, their speed. I straight up can't outrun zombies during the nighttime with my current setup, so I either need to clear this building fast or find a safe nook to hold up in for the night. I scope out the floor below through this hole in the floor, and even though it seems clear, it's far from it. I drop down inside, only to have the floor give out below me. Had I not moved in the manner that I did here, I would have fallen into the basement and it would have been game over already. As you can see, these zombies are now moving at full sprints, which means nighttime has officially fallen. Now I do my best to juke this hazmat zombie, but I end up taking the first hit of the playthrough. My only option here is to kite over top of the floor that was breaking apart, and hopefully he'll fall down into the basement. The strategy actually works and gives me a few seconds of safety, although both of these zombies find another way back up. This forces me to kite around the outside of the building in the effort of losing them, but this isn't ideal given that it's nighttime. Fortunately, it does work for the most part, but the hazmat zombie explodes and blows away a portion of the wall next to me. This was actually an incredibly close call. If I had been any closer when this happened, I more than likely would have died. The zombie noises seemed to have settled down for the most part, and I was reasonably confident that I was safe for the moment. I use a bandage to heal up some of my health, and invest my attribute point into the Blade Guy feat for increased efficiency with bladed weapons. It's still pitch black outside, and my confidence in any form of combat is very low. I decide to crouch walk my way through the house, looting as much as possible while hopefully avoiding combat. I know for a fact that there's still zombies in here because of the quest indicator, and upon walking into this room, I discover one. I use the closed door to my advantage as much as possible. The more bleeds and burns I can stack before he gets through, the better my chances of survival. This strategy works, and I'm able to finish him off with a bow from afar. That fight was way too risky though, and I decide to not chance the run any further. I hide out in the basement for a while, just looking at feats and cleaning out my inventory, until I notice that everything seems to have gotten much brighter. I step back into the living room and notice that it's light outside, which means I've officially survived the first day of the challenge. Day 2 picks up right where I left off. The area is still not clear, which means there's more zombies somewhere in the building. I drop into the basement and try breaking apart these wooden planks, but the noises attracts a zombie from above. Stamina is always a challenge in this game, which results in this really funny ring around the rosy match while it recharges. Unfortunately for me, the ladder out of the basement was destroyed when that hazmat zombie kamikazed himself, which means I'm now forced to hatchet my way out of here. The only room left to explore in this place was the bathroom, and just like I suspected, this is where the remaining zombies were at. I used the door to my advantage here again to get in some cheesy hits that I otherwise wouldn't have. It was important that I lure this hazmat zombie out of the bathroom, as otherwise if he exploded near the final loot room, he'll destroy all of it. These final loot rooms were just as valuable as the quest reward I was going to receive, as they often contained really important items that I would otherwise never acquire. For instance, this box had vitamins and steroids. Vitamins would keep me from getting infected, and steroids were just fucking insane in the early game, but more on that later. I also find a jar of honey, some fort bites, and some painkillers in this box, but all that pales in comparison to the loot inside this wooden crate. Not only did I find a second piece of armor in the form of padded boots, but I also acquired my first firearm of this challenge, the pipe machine gun. It's shit, don't get me wrong, but I'm sure it will be invaluable in a pinch. Now I don't have any ammo for this thing yet, but I usually find it in these final loot rooms or from quest completions. Anyways, now that this mission is complete, I can head back to the trader to turn it in. While I thought there was only one zombie outside, the noise from fighting it ends up luring in quite a few more. While I want to minimize my fighting as much as possible to play it safe, I also want the XP drops and potential loot from these zombies, so I chance it. Back at the trader, I decide to craft and place the only station I'm allowed to interact with, the campfire. I place the cooking grill and cooking pot inside their appropriate augment slots, which allows me to craft more recipes. I start out by boiling some clean water from murky water and start grilling up all the food items I've acquired so far. While these things are cooking up, I speak with the trader to turn in my completed quest. Fortunately for me, I'm offered a pipe shotgun as one of my reward choices. Just like that pipe machine gun I found, it's complete shit, but it's all I've got. I take the next closest job available and load a shotgun shell into the pipe shotgun as an oh shit button. Inventory management was key in a challenge like this, so when I'm given these short opportunities to clean things up and reduce my encumbrance, I take them. Everything is valuable in a challenge, whether it's for crafting, cooking, or simply selling to the trader, but I had to be very careful not to encumber myself too much and risk moving too slowly to outrun zombies. Remember before when I said that yucca fruit was extremely valuable because of the beverage I could make with it? Well, here's a prime example. I managed to acquire one empty jar from the murky water I boiled, which means I can now craft one yucca juice. While it's crafting up, I absolutely shove my face with all these fruits and veggies, but even after all of that, I'm still a little bit low on water. I decide to purchase a few extremely overpriced red teas from the vending machine outside to combat this. I figured that dukes aren't any good to me if I'm dead, so I might as well replenish my stats before setting out. Lastly, I invest one attribute point into the Pack Mule perk to increase the amount of items I can carry before becoming encumbered. Now, it's mission time. Just like before, my objective is to clear the area of zombies. Simple enough, unless a fucking screamer zombie shows up. Jesus Christ! For those of you who don't know, screamer zombies can lure in dozens of other zombies if left unchecked. So, in a permadeath challenge like this, one screamer zombie could instantly end the run. This outside area is full of construction worker zombies, but they all go down reasonably fast with bleeds and burns. The last part of this mission is in this 2-stall garage, but the doors are both locked and I have to find another way in. Now it's worth mentioning here that every mission kind of has a main route to take. There's always the option of lock-picking doors or breaking through blocks to get to where you want to go, but for the most part you can avoid this if you just follow the route you're supposed to take. In this case, you're supposed to go to this loft above the garage, and then you can fight these zombies and loot some of the crates. Speaking of which, I find a few of these crafting station mods inside this crate that I can sell to the trader. The last 2 zombies I need to kill are down inside the garage, so I sneak attack the one to get him as low as possible before hopping down inside to take them head on. This results in another hilarious game of Ring Around the Rosie while I wait for my stamina to recharge. This garage was the final loot room of this mission, and inside this wooden crate housed another extremely valuable item for me, the scrap iron chess piece. The remaining loot was complete dog shit, but that's okay, I got what I came here for. I open up the garage door from the inside and head back towards the trader, but along the way I come across this yellow medical tent full of zombies. Given that it's so close to the trader, I reasoned that I should probably clear it out, as future fights near the trader might just lure these zombies in and make the situation much worse. I make it back to the trader and I'm offered a pistol as one of my rewards. This was massive. Not only was this my best firearm by far, but pistol ammo was also some of the most prevalent to find. So I decide to glance at my next class quest, which wants me to craft the knuckle wraps using leather. I don't have any leather right now, and Trader Hugh is fucking worthless, so this quest is getting put on the back burner. I invest 1 point into bladed weapon crafting so I can repair my machete, and put 1 point into armor specialist. Now as you can see, it's already getting dark outside, and leaving the trader now would mean certain death. Now, I'm an old school RuneScape player, which means efficiency is everything. I decide to use this time to crouch walk my way around and loot as much as possible while I wait for the night to end. Like I mentioned before, the trader is not a safe zone in Darkness Falls, and even me sneak walking around looting is enough to draw attention of a party girl. Yes, that's actually the zombie's name, in case you were wondering. If you could see the boob flop happening right now, then you'd know why. I try to take her down with a bow, but these trader walls are a little bit glitchy and don't seem to be letting my arrows pass through. I decide to get to a safe place before she breaks through the wall and I draw any more attention to myself, so I enter this lookout tower and climb to the top. I spend this time organizing my inventory as much as possible until daylight breaks the horizon.
Hallelujah.
Day 3 begins and I'm stuck in a door.
What the
I liquidate as much as I can at the trader, including some of those crafting mods that I found in that last mission, and buy out his supply of stone arrows since they're relatively cheap.
Those damn things are selling like hotcakes.
As you can tell, zombies are becoming much more prevalent and in much larger numbers when compared to the first few days. Making a ton of noise right now would result in an absolute shit show, so I move along. Since I had some extra Duke stockpiled for my quest rewards, I decided to purchase a few medical supplies from this White River Scout and take one of her combat missions, although I'm still not very confident in tackling one of these just yet. On my way to the next mission, I pass another NPC named Dr. Jen that I've never seen before. Now is not the time, but I plan on circling back to her later. For now, mission time! The objective this time is a little bit different than before. I have to find a stash of supplies hidden somewhere inside this house. Oftentimes, they're in a very inconspicuous place, or at the very end of the mission near the final loot room. Now maybe I haven't done a good job showcasing it, but all of these points of interest play out like little puzzles of sorts. I mentioned before that there's a certain path that you're meant to take, and this is a prime example of that. For this mission, I have to climb up this outside lattice work, and while I can loot the garage from here, the actual way to progress is through this upstairs bedroom window. Upon stepping through, the floor collapses and I'm thrown into combat. I act as quickly as possible to get out of dodge, but I can hear more zombies coming and I need to act fast. I bust out the pipe shotgun and use this broken door for cover as much as possible. Fortunately for me, I luck out on this second zombie by landing an attack that dismembers her. Inside the loot bag of this first zombie, I find some sticks of dynamite, which I'm sure will come in clutch at some point. I spend a long time looting the inside of this house as thoroughly as possible, but find nothing of notable value so far. Upon approaching this zombie to get in some cheesy hits, he smacks me through the doorway and gives me a minor abrasion. I decide to pop some vitamins to avoid infection from any future hits, and use one of those sterile bandages I bought to cure the abrasion. Upstairs is a— oh my—
that's a huge bitch!
I do my best to kite this putrid girl on the deck, but she managed to get in 2 more hits and refresh my abrasion timer. The fat chick just explodes.
That's a huge bitch!
All of that commotion lures in another zombie, but he goes down pretty quickly. So remember before when I said that loot is often hidden in these points of interest? Here's a good example. Loot boxes, weapon caches, or even safes can be found behind paintings like this, so it's in my best interest to thoroughly check them out. I find the White River supplies on top of this stack of cardboard boxes, which technically completes the mission, but I still have to reach that final loot room. This happens to be upstairs, and while at first glance it looks clear, it's not at all. I'm not gonna lie, I about shit my pants here. Zombies falling from the ceiling above caught me completely off guard, especially since there are no audio cues to put me on edge. My first reaction is just to get out of dodge and create some space between myself and however many fell through the floor. Taking on one zombie at a time is already dangerous enough, let alone multiple in a small area like this. I eventually whittle them all down and return upstairs to loot the room. In the wooden crate is a higher level pipe machine gun, but more importantly some padded leg armor and a reflex sight. There's also a magazine that increases my level with bladed weapons. The more of these free level ups I can find, the better. The rest of this loot is pretty lackluster, but I'll take anything that I can get my hands on to sell for dukes. I decide to put that reflex sight on my pistol and begin heading back towards the trader to turn in the quest. Just as I reach the trader gates, I hear a bunch of noise coming around the right side of the compound. I reason that I should probably take care of it before it escalates, only to realize that it's already done escalated. Now there's too many zombies here to reasonably take out with melee, so I fall back on those sticks of dynamite that I found. I had never used dynamite before in this game, and I didn't realize that one has to light said dynamite in order for said dynamite to explode, so the first throw is a complete bust. I figure it out on my second attempt though, and let's just say that it evened out the playing field. I feel a bit more confident taking on these zombies now that the numbers are reduced, and a lot of the remaining ones are already partially damaged. Believe me when I say this still takes a long time for me to get through all these zombies, but I would rather be safe about it than rush and end up making a mistake that ends the challenge. I do end up sustaining a broken limb at one point during this fight, but luckily the White River Scout is just inside the compound and I can purchase some medical supplies to mend it. I even buy a few extras just to keep on hand in case this happens again and I'm not near the trader. I head inside to turn my quest in, and I'm given quite possibly one of the best quest rewards I could have been given this early in the game. The mining helmet. Now, the helmet itself is nothing special, especially since I already have that SWAT helmet, but the helmet light mod attached to it is incredibly valuable. They're super rare to stumble upon in the open world, and to purchase one would have cost me thousands of dukes, so this was huge. I claim it as my reward and try to take another quest, but the only options available are for buried supplies. This is very bad. There is no shot I can efficiently complete one of these with how poor my stamina pool is, and no good digging tool to use, but I reluctantly take it anyways. That helmet mod I was telling you about can be turned on and off with a key binding, which basically means I no longer have to switch to the torch at night to see. Just like the torch though, it attracts zombies if they see it, so I have to be careful when I use it. Next, I carefully refill my food and water stats, and I say carefully because some food items have a percentage chance of giving me food poisoning. If this happened, it would completely drain my food and water and make this already difficult challenge that much more difficult. In summary, it's just not worth the risk. I pitch all of the items that have a percentage chance of giving me food poisoning just to play it safe. I load the pipe machine gun for the first time, and oh yeah, I forgot to mention that at some point I acquired a low-level hunting rifle from somewhere. This is just as much news to me as it is to you. That buried supplies mission I picked up a few minutes ago has me worried, and I thought to myself, hey, why don't I try to delete it and pick up a new one? I'll be honest, I have very little faith that this is going to work, but it's worth a shot. Turns out, it does work, and that's kind of huge. I'll have to keep that in mind for the future. Anyways, it's still completely pitch black outside, and I take my method acting very seriously. By that, I mean I shrink myself down to the size of a fucking snail and I hide in a corner like a coward.
What the
Flash forward a few minutes and I emerge from the trader just as daylight breaks. Day 4 begins with me completely whiffing this sneak attack and quickly cutting to the mission start to avoid criticism. Mailboxes are always worth checking for the high chance of finding magazines or item recipes, just like this scrap armor schematic. My mission is once again to acquire the White River supplies hidden somewhere inside this building. While this room looks unassuming and safe, I can hear a zombie nearby, so I refrain from charging in. What I didn't know is that the floor here is weak, and had I charged right in, I would have found myself in the basement with this hazmat zombie. Standing on the furniture in this room is a surefire way to avoid falling through the floor, because we all know that furniture is completely resistant to the effects of gravity. Inevitably, though, going down is the only way forwards, so I clench my ass cheeks and drop down through. My fear when doing this is that I'm going to become overwhelmed in a small area, but as long as I can take them on single file, I should be alright. This fat-ass Taurus is a big concern, though. He's extremely tanky and has a ranged spinning attack that could really mess me up. I decide to break out the pistol for the first time since melee wasn't doing all that much damage to him, which does work, but ultimately is a huge mistake. Well, that and the pipe shotgun shell that I followed it up with. As soon as I fired these shots, I knew I was in trouble. I have to act fast. If those zombies found a way into the basement, I was going to be trapped in a small space with who knows how many of them. The only exit that I can see is out this window. I break it apart as fast as possible and head outside into some better kiting grounds. Good thing too, because apparently this house is located right next to a fucking military base full of zombies. I reasoned that dynamite is probably the best play here again. There are simply too many to feasibly take on with melee or arrows. This strategy works, but there are still quite a few more zombies left to take down. I pick them off one by one using either melee or my new hunting rifle. It's loud as hell, but after the pistol shots and shotgun shells and sticks of dynamite, I'm not really concerned about the noise levels. Whether through skill or sheer luck, I come out of this fight unscathed. Most of the loot is pretty poor, but I do end up finding this new type of pistol from the Darkness Falls mod that just might give me a leg up in a pinch. I head back into the basement and find the White River supplies inside a furnace. I would think they would have caught fire by now, but I digress. Even though the mission is complete, there are still unexplored rooms in this place. I thoroughly check behind all of the paintings and pictures of the house to no avail, but end up finding an absolute gem inside this closet. The college jacket provides a plus 5% run speed while equipped, which is huge in a challenge like this where I'm constantly kiting. The only place left to explore in here is the attic, and I'm feeling extremely confident that I've dealt with every single zombie in the area, given how much of a ruckus I made. Perhaps I'm too confident, because this game has a way of humbling its players pretty quickly. I step into this room without a care in the world, only to fill my drawers faster than a broke hooker can take them off. This completely caught me off guard. As proof, here's a snippet of live audio from when it happened.
My God.
My wife was sleeping at the time, so I couldn't yell, but this is what I actually would have said. This was the final loot room, and while I had tremendous success with my previous missions, this one was extremely lackluster. I didn't find a single upgrade in any of these crates, but I did manage to find a few items to sell. Before heading back to the trader, I finally decided to swing into this Dr. Jen's to see what this place was about. It's odd, to say the least. The only entrance is via this pile of rubble leading into an upper story, and then a ladder heading downstairs into a workout room. It's really dark in here, so I activate my helmet light for practical use for the first time. What I discover next is beyond strange. This chick straight up has a high-tech sci-fi medical lab buried underground. There's even vending machines down here, and bathroom sinks incorrectly installed over top of kitchen countertops. This place has everything! I even find a fully functional stove that can be operated with a car battery, but it would be breaking my rule set to use it, plus I don't have a car battery. Before proceeding any further though, I thought that this was the best time to look at my class quest again. I still have to make those knuckle wraps using leather, which I was able to acquire from breaking things down. This awards me with a pipe pistol, which is pretty useless to me at this point, but more importantly, it gives me 100 9mm ammo, which is huge. The next quest is to once again kill 5 zombies, so easy peasy. I invest one of my skill points into Armor Specialist, and another into Knife Master before walking through the door and meeting Dr. Jen for the first time.
I am so glad to see your face. I get lonely sitting by myself all day.
She seems happy to meet me at first, only to basically tell me to fuck off because she doesn't trust me, and I have to go help Eve. Whoever that is. Essentially, this interaction gets me nowhere. I want to explore this glass chamber behind her, but I'm afraid of dying to some stupid mechanic that I don't understand, so I refrain from going inside. This place does have a lot of useful things, like magazines and recipes, so all in all, it's not a complete waste of time. There's a locked door by the stairs that leads down into here, and I speculated that maybe one of those keycards I looted from earlier would unlock it. I try all 3 types of keycards that I found, but alas, none of them work on this door, so I have no idea how to get into here. I could hear zombies above me somewhere, so I cautiously walk up the stairs to see where they're at. I was concerned that night had fallen during my time in Jen's lab, which unfortunately turns out to be true. I can tell by the block damage and attack speed of these 2 zombies. I try to take them out before they get any closer to me, but they are progressing through these wooden blocks a little faster than I'm comfortable with, so I run like a bitch. Something about air-locked sci-fi doors and this adorable little plant sitting on the desk comforts me against the gurgling death noises coming from upstairs. Anyways, time wasted is time lost, so I invest another point into Blade Guy, clean up my inventory, and head upstairs when I think that daylight has finally come to save me.
Hallelujah.
These guys are much easier to take down with the glory of the sun slowly burning away at their sins, but what happens next completely catches me off guard. I thought that the Day 5 intro graphic would be playing across the screen right now, but Day 4 had one final surprise in store for me. A coked-up zombie stripper dressed as a football player. I fire 1 pipe shotgun shell into his chest to slow him down, but I knew this wasn't going to be enough. I was over-encumbered by 35 items, and I was already at half stamina from climbing out of Jen's lab. It was time for me to do something to save my life, and that something was steroids. Steroids completely removes the negative effects of encumbrance and provides a 10% boost to movement speed. I knew for a fact that this was my only shot at coming out of this situation alive, so I didn't hesitate. I'm throwing everything I've got at this motherfucker, but he just keeps on coming. Shotgun shells barely scratch him, and the pipe machine gun is about the equivalent of throwing marshmallows at his face. I fall back on the strategy of getting gap and using the hunting rifle to chip away at his health. Once he was reasonably low, I take a chance with melee to finish him off, which fortunately for me pans out, and I luckily survive another day. Whew! Thank God for steroids. Alright, so Day 5 technically already started before that coked-up football stripper attacked me, but this just feels like the best time to segue. I'm given the option of leather leg armor as one of my quest rewards, which is better than my current padded leg armor. There's only one mission available that's not a buried supplies run, so my options are kind of limited here. So here's a power move that I'm kind of proud of. I want to sell this baseball bat and this metal spikes mod. Individually, these items don't sell for a whole lot, but combining them together increases the value of the final item by quite a bit. Is this game-breaking? No, but little decisions like this snowball into huge advantages in challenges like this. I cook up some food and water inside my campfire before heading outside and bumping into 2 radiated zombies. No thanks. Now, it's already Day 5, and I need to start planning for the 7th day. I haven't talked much about it up until this point, so let me elaborate. The game is named as it is for a reason. Every 7 days, a massive zombie horde floods your player's current location, and it becomes this chaotic battle of life and death until daybreak. Now with a normal playthrough, you could just simply set up a defensive bunker to fight off the horde with various traps, ranged weapons, or cheesy gotcha mechanics, but I'm not allowed to do that. The way I'm looking at it, I've got 2 options. Option 1 is to pop so many goddamn steroids and espresso shots that I simply outrun the horde as it's coming at me, or Option 2, I hold up on a rooftop and fight off the horde. Now, I'm leaning towards Option 2, but I would have to find a building that's large enough to sustain the horde's attacks on the lower levels, while also sheltering me from the potential threat of vultures on the upper levels. I would also need to be able to break certain blocks to restrict the horde's pathing to me, without needing to place any blocks as to avoid violating my self-imposed rule set. I'm going to be keeping an eye out for a building that fits all this criteria, as otherwise, Option 1's my only choice. Anyways, mission time. The objective here is just to clear the area. I'm feeling more and more confident in my ability to complete these missions. My gear is substantially better than it used to be, and my attribute points are making it easier to take out enemies, but complacency is a breeding ground for failure, so I gotta remain vigilant. That being said, this mission is incredibly short. The only zombies to be seen here are in these 2 garages, and after a few strategical door tactics, I complete the mission without much of a hassle. All that's left now is to loot the room. Most of the stuff I'm finding here is either basic resources or junk. This wooden crate ends up rewarding me with a bunker buster mod that can be applied to a pickaxe, and a rad remover mod that can be applied to a weapon. This bad boy stops the regeneration ability of radiated zombies, which if you recall from only a few moments ago, I steadfastly avoided engaging with because of their difficulty. I slap this puppy on my machete and loot the final wooden crate upstairs for a disappointing reward. Heading back towards the trader, I come across one of those radiated zombies just flailing his arms at this metal post. I'm really not sure what he's trying to accomplish here, but feeling confident with my rad remover, I slice him up. The trader offers me a sweet pair of iron gloves as a reward, but makes up for this generosity by only offering me buried supply missions. What the fuck, Trader Hugh? Well, no matter, I'll just simply delete the mission and refresh the quest pool like last time. That didn't work. I guess I'll try it again? Well shit, this isn't good. So it looks like my Trader Hugh questing has come to an end, but I can still fall back on the White River Scout missions until the 7th day rolls around. Looking through the trader's inventory, I spot a pair of sweet ski goggles that boost mobility by 110%. If I'm being entirely honest, I don't know what that means, but it sounds useful for kiting, and I've got tons of money to spend. Plus, they make me look like a total fucking Chad! I invest 1 attribute point into Knife Master to guarantee bleeds on primary attacks, and 1 point into Sexual Tyrannosaurus for 10% increased stamina regen. I won't lie, I purchased this feat mostly for the name. So one thing that Trader Hugh did offer me was an opening trade routes mission that would introduce me to a new trader, but it's way too far away to risk traveling this late in the day. I instead choose to pursue the White River Scouts mission. I spot a wolf fairly close to the quest starting location and sneak walk around it as to not lure it in. I knew this thing was going to come flying in as soon as I started fighting zombies for the quest though, so I thought it best to take it out right now before that happens. As it turns out, sneak attacks with the hunting rifle can straight up one-shot these things. Jesus Christ, look at its head!
She can't get to school now.
I spot another wolf close by and take it out in the same fashion, albeit a little bit more comically. Now there's a ton of zombies still in the area, which I thought was best to clear out before starting the mission. While this was a wise decision, what I'm about to do was anything but. As you can see, it's already getting nighttime, and against my better judgment, I decide to start the mission anyways. I reasoned that I could probably kill all of the zombies fast enough before nightfall happened, and then I could hide inside a small structure beside me. At first, everything was perfectly fine. I wiped through the first 2 fairly quickly, and then nighttime strikes. The other zombie's running speed picks up, and I fail to dodge this first attack, which throws off my reticle and causes my shotgun shell to completely miss. That single attack inflicts me with an abrasion, and I'm completely out of stamina. When in doubt, steroids! At this point, I'd already made enough noise to draw in every single zombie in the area, so I just full send my assault. I bust out the pipe machine gun and turn on my headlamp for the impending horde. Keeping my distance and getting in small doses of DPS is my only hope here, but my confidence is waning fast. My stamina's not recharging fast enough to outpace all of these zombies coming at me, and when I try to throw in some melee attacks, I take 2 hits back to back from different zombies, nearly killing me and ending the run. I'm currently sitting at 13 HP, with an abrasion, a sprained limb, and 1 pissed off horde on my tail. I play this as strategically as I can, trying to get gap while applying meds to restore my health. Once I felt confident enough in my health pool again, I turn around to begin picking away at the ones still chasing me. Luckily for me, most had broken aggro or died to my bleeds. Once I defeat this last one chasing me, I quickly drop into a crouch position and turn off my headlamp to avoid any further aggro. My best bet was to get inside of this building and hold up for the remainder of the night, but it's full of zombies and not worth the risk. A zombie stripper comes flying out of nowhere from the backside of the building and gets in 1 more free hit, but I take her down without arousing too much more attention. I wait out most of the night near the front of this building, which was fairly safe until this decayed mother comes flying out of nowhere and scares the daylights out of me. Fortunately, daylight just arrived, and all of her combat prowess withers away to nothing as she struggles to even keep upright in her pursuit of the Bunneh.
Gotcha, bitch!
Day 6 begins with me slicing up this zombie biker and hightailing it back to the trader. I mistakenly forget that it was his associate that gave me the quest and not him, but I need to cook up some food anyways. I head outside and turn in the quest for a very disappointing reward of crossbow bolts, even though I don't own a crossbow, and I grab another quest off of her just to give me a sense of direction. I also spend a few more dukes on some medical supplies. Given that it was already day 6, I decided to finish looting the rest of the trader's wooden crates for supplies, and upon leaving the compound, I discover a bunch of loot bags just sitting on the floor. Now I'm not sure how these zombies died, but goddamn I'm profiting from their demise. Not only did that bag contain a bunch of ammunition, but it also had a double-barrel shotgun, which is a notable upgrade to my current pipe shotgun. Given this challenge's restrictions, I'm not even able to craft this weapon, even if I had the resources available, so getting it as a drop or from a quest reward is my only option. A giant horde of zombies begins cascading towards the trader outpost for some reason, which is my cue to get the hell out of here. The next White River Scout mission wasn't too terribly far away, but it was in a section of town that I haven't explored yet. While working my way towards it, I spot this lovely little gem out of the corner of my eye. It's a decent-sized building with a relatively tall roof, and as far as I can tell from here, it should have rooftop access. If this was going to be the building that I'm going to make my final stand in, I have to act now. But first, I murder the neighbors, as one would do. The only door I see into this place is locked, but luckily I have a few lockpicks on hand. Lockpicking in this game is pretty easy to do and understand, but lockpicks in a challenge like this were a hot commodity. Because of the challenge's restrictions, I can't craft them, which means I only have what I've found to work with. Upon walking downstairs, I immediately void my bowels into my pants again when I don't see this giant blob of a man just standing here. Honestly though, he becomes the least of my concerns when a feral zombie comes barreling up the stairs. Feral zombies are incredibly fast and hit like fucking trucks, even in the daytime. At one point I miss with a melee attack and he clobbers me from 97 HP all the way down to 59 in a single hit. Little mistakes like this can't happen, especially with the final day right around the corner. Fighting that thing drew in a few more of the neighbors, one of which explodes and detonates this fucking truck. What? I didn't even know that could happen. God, I'm glad I ran like a bitch. I find a bunch of loot inside this one room, but I hesitate to begin looting it only to get trapped inside with no escape plan. I track down the zombie making all of the ruckus and head back into the loot room to claim my reward. Inside this first box are some blueberry pancakes, which is one of the best food items that I've found so far. It's taking everything in my power not to shove this straight into my face, but I should probably save it for the 7th day to get the wellness buff. The other box is pretty unremarkable, but this weapons bag contains 2 weapon mods that are pretty darn useful. In fact, I decided to swap the rad remover mod on my machete to this ergonomic mod, as it would decrease the stamina cost of my melee attacks. Then I put the rad remover on my double barrel shotgun. I find some more steroids underneath the staircase and attempt to lockpick this final reinforced chest, but end up failing and run out of lockpicks. Anyways, I need to get back on track. Clearing this house isn't for the loot, it's for the 7th day. The place was already full of booby traps, which would help against the horde, but for right now they were only serving to slowly kill me. Despite the blood dripping down my forehead, I still loot the hell out of this kitchen though, don't worry. I head upstairs and encounter 2 more zombies lying in wait, one of which is a soldier and the other's radiated. I luck out like crazy though and manage to land a dismemberment attack on both of them back to back. The upstairs is riddled with more booby traps, the most dangerous of which being a handful of landmines. I attempt to detonate them with arrows, but they don't seem to do the trick. I even try throwing stones at them, but this too doesn't work. When in doubt, steroids! I mean pistol. I use my pistol. These things blowing up is enough to draw on any zombies anyways, so I'm not too concerned about the sound of pistol fire. I hatchet my way through another layer of barbed wire, and upon walking into this room come face to face with another feral zombie. This is bad. That last one nearly killed me when I had the room to kite it, let alone in confined quarters like this. The double-barrel shotgun seems to scratch her the first time that I use it, but the next 2 follow-up shots fortunately take away most of her health. This, combined with all of the booby traps lying around, is enough to take her down without me taking any damage. I step out onto the wooden catwalks along the outside of this house and walk into the next bedroom, only to be greeted by yet another feral zombie. While trying to scurry out the bedroom window where I came from, he manages to get in one hit and take me down to half health instantly. Luckily, I don't break my legs on the fall, and I'm able to get in 2 quick shots of the shotgun before he gets up. Even with all this though, I'm reading between the lines. My chances of surviving this are extremely slim. But when in doubt, steroids, baby! Popping these things gives me plenty of a head start to begin regenerating stamina and avoiding all of his attacks. Had I not used these right here and now, I don't think I would have made it much farther, especially considering how he has some friends that joined in right after. One of which spits directly in my face. Oh, what the fuck? Alright, I gotta get back on track. Clear the house, that's my goal. I pop some bandages and head back up into the bedroom that I dropped out of. Inside this little duffel bag, I find what is quite possibly the most useful weapon mod in a challenge like this, the Burning Shaft mod. Okay, I've never actually said the name of this mod out loud, and now that I have, I see that it's heavily laced with sexual innuendo. Anyways, this thing adds a burning effect to all of my melee attacks, which is something I've only been able to achieve by switching to the torch before. I slap it on my machete and place the ergonomic grip on my bow instead. I've officially made it to the rooftop now, but I knew there had to be more zombies around here and nighttime was about to set in. I have to act fast, especially since one of these things is fucking feral, are you kidding me? Juggling 3 zombies here is a bit of a chore, but I really luck out on some hits that knock them down. If I wasn't landing these knockbacks at the rate that I am, I'm pretty sure this feral zombie would have absolutely shredded me. After all, 2 hits would probably kill me at my current health. Luckily, I avoid taking any more damage and clear the rooftop just before nightfall.
Thank you, Jesus.
There's no going anywhere now, but that's okay. This is about as safe as I'm going to get, so I'm just going to spend my time wisely by cooking food and managing my inventory. After a few minutes, I hear a whole lot of commotion just below me, and upon walking down this rubble to investigate, I come across 3 zombies breaking through the wall. Thank God this wall's here, as otherwise I'd be completely fucked. 2 of them end up kamikazing themselves into oblivion, and the last one I simply take down with arrows. I head back to the rooftop and shove my face full of food to regen some stats. With that out of the way, I decide to start horde-proofing this house in preparation for tomorrow night. This staircase here is the only way to reach the 2nd floor of the building, so tearing them out would ensure that no zombies can even reach me right away. That is, until they started breaking blocks and working their way up towards me. Tearing these stairs out seemed like a great idea. It seemed like the right thing to do and the best way to prep this house, until this happened. Oh my god! And just like that, the run is over. All it took was one feral lumberjack with the ability to pounce like a fucking jungle cat to leap over a section of broken staircase and hit me for 68 HP. Now, this was my fault, and I can't blame unfair game mechanics for my mistake. I should have waited to regen more health before doing anything risky. In fact, I shouldn't have been trying to clear out this staircase at all during the nighttime. Despite being crouched the entire time and trying to limit the amount of noise I was making, it simply wasn't enough. I became complacent and overconfident in my abilities, which ultimately led to my downfall. So what happened next, you might ask? Well, I slept it off. As you could probably tell from my mic audio at the time, I wasn't angry or upset with the failure. In fact, I thought it was pretty damn funny, but I wasn't sure where to go from here. Do I attempt this challenge a 7th time to get all deep and poetic about the title association, or hang in the towel altogether? Well, I chose a 3rd option. That option being, fuck it, let's see if I would have survived the 7th day because my chances were pretty slim. Okay, that's a long title, but you get the idea. Day 7 begins with me spawning naked with reduced stats over 500 meters from my body, so you know, great start. Even though it's daytime, this zombie stripper must have snorted a line of coke the length of a table because she catches up with me running at a full sprint and applies a bleed effect to me, which kills me shortly after.
Alrighty then.
I respawn much closer to my body this time and retrieve all my stuff. I decide to head back to the trader one last time before shit hits the fan to spend all of my hard-earned cash on ammo and supplies. I end up with just over 3,500 dukes after selling everything, but this number quickly drops once I start mass purchasing ammo. Next, I decide to completely clean out my inventory and only keep the essentials for the final fight. I head back to the yellow house and continue my work of horde-proofing it to the best of my abilities, starting with this fucking staircase that got me killed. As far as I can tell, this is the only way to reach the 2nd floor and thus the rooftop, but I also want to make sure that zombies couldn't scale the outside pitch of this roof. Technically they can, but this metal gate would stop them along the outside, so I feel pretty safe about it. As an absolute failsafe, I opt to take out this section of the roof that caved in as well, which means there's virtually no way for zombies to reach me up here. This also means that if I leave this rooftop, I'm never getting back up, but since this was my last stand, it doesn't really matter too much. The last part of my plan involves this rooftop furnace. I need a small hubby hole to hide inside of in case vultures begin swarming me. Since I wasn't allowed to place any blocks, and this thing was made of much stronger material than wood, it would make for a perfect little shelter if I needed it.
No one can destroy the metal.
After this was done, I invested my remaining attribute points as wisely as possible, and did one final sweep of the perimeter to ensure there was no external access to the rooftop. I then finalized my destruction of the rooftop access, and swapped the reflex sight on my pistol over to the hunting rifle. The sky was starting to turn to blood, and I was experiencing periodic screen tearing, which if you're unfamiliar with the game is a solid indicator that it's the 7th day and shit's about to get real. Even though I already failed this challenge, I'm determined to play as safely as possible and put forth my best effort. All things considered, this was a pretty lucky run, and I'm not sure I'd be able to make it this far if I tried it again, so I'm truly curious if this plan would have worked out in the end. With this singular hunting rifle shot begins the final test. Even though there's not many zombies on screen right now, they were pouring in from all directions around me and entering the 1st floor. As proof, here's a snippet of the audio that I was listening to at the time. Now, I don't know what the hell they're doing down there, but it was clear that my tactics of tearing out the staircase were effective. There doesn't seem to be any zombie vultures swooping in to ruin the day, so I decide to drop down onto the second floor and take down as many zombies as I can. They're scattered throughout the entire house, attacking different areas, trying to find a solid path to get to me, but so far things are holding up strong. These feral spider zombies are especially dangerous because of their ability to leap, but it's more of a horizontal pounce than it is a vertical jump. I'm switching weapons on a frequent basis here, both for the sake of taking down as many zombies as possible, and for the sake of spreading out my ammo usage between weapons. Night Stalker demons even start showing up at one point, which are Darkness Falls exclusive mods that I'm sure would fuck me up if given the chance. But after a long night of firing hundreds of bullets down a narrow staircase, I can officially say that I would have survived the 7th day just fine with my tactics had I not been thoroughly taken advantage of by a pouncing feral lumberjack. I even managed to go toe-to-toe with 2 zombie dogs here, and survive the follow-up attack from a zombie vulture. Does this redeem me from my failure? No. But it does prove that if I had been a little more cautious with my gameplay and avoided the complacency and overconfidence that resulted in my downfall, I very well could have completed this challenge with my head held high. But like anything in life, failure is part of the journey. Successes mean nothing if not for the struggle to achieve them, and while I would love to post this epic speedrun of a challenge where I absolutely decimate this 13-year-old game that's still stuck in alpha for some reason, that's not who I am as a creator, or as a person. I had an absolute blast tackling this challenge, and think that my ultimate failure is what made it that much more enjoyable. At least that's what I'm telling myself to sleep at night. I would love to tackle more challenges like this in the future, but that's fully dependent upon you guys. If you enjoyed this video, then please be sure to leave me a like down below, subscribe to the channel with notifications on so you can stay up to date on all of my latest content, join the Discord for a community of like-minded woodland creatures, and please keep leaving me comments because they warm my little Bunneh heart. A special thank you goes out to all of the Bunnehs that support me on Patreon. You guys are amazing, and if you would like to support the channel and the content that I create, you can now do so for as little as $1 a month. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.